by a person, and they advocated for a library in Socorro. They advocated that it was important to the community, it was important to the youth, and this was 6 years ago. And I put this item on the agenda again to remind us that call for the youth and for the education and for a need for a library in Socorro has not diminished. We recognize, and especially now that we have such a great council, that we can start looking into these endeavors and get the ball rolling again. And so I thought it was important to revisit that day that it was created. And council has received the minutes of that day. If we can, here, Mr. Martin, here's one for you. Pass one, Mr. Miranda. Okay. The second one. And so we're going to play that video now, Mr. Downey, and we'll be able to follow along that conversation. And that conversation is pertinent to what we'll be discussing right now.
Unfortunately, the sound system is not.
The sound system is not going to allow us. Okay. This is on July 21st, 2005, and we'll have the young lady appear right now. And again, our sound system isn't connected, or at least the video isn't playing it loud enough for everybody to hear. But I'll wait till right now they're introducing her. And so when this item came up, discussion on a library in the city of Socorro, it starts off with, and I'll go and just read it to you real quickly. It says, Nicole Chaparro is a young lady who lives in my district, and she had a wonderful idea. She called me out of the blue one day, and I had never met her personally, even though I do know her family. She called me up and asked me if the city of Socorro had a library, and I told her that I didn't think so, not that I had heard of. She told me that we are a growing community and that this was something that we should be looking into. I told her that everything starts somewhere, and if she wanted to speak to the council, then I would be happy to put her on the agenda, and hence we have her here today. And that's the young lady at the podium right now. Mr. Chaparro is telling us, and again, this is verbatim, she says, "Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and I am here to introduce a new idea for Socorro. It has come to my attention that there are no districts here in the city of Socorro that have a library. It would make such a difference to broaden the minds of kids everywhere in Socorro to have a library. Technology is very advanced these days. I have seen seniors that have 8th grade level in readings, and that is not good. I want to change the lives of the little kids that don't have the opportunity to go to a library, to get a book, and have a bedtime story. That is not right. Kids need a place besides the streets to go and be safe, because there are actually kids out there that want to learn and don't want to be illiterate. The former First Lady, Nancy Reagan, was encouraging to eliminate illiteracy everywhere. Why should the city of Socorro be any different? I believe that everyone deserves a good education." We have several people responding to her, one of them being myself. And I think that what you are hearing, and we had different council members, and after they were addressing her, and they're lengthy, so I won't go into them verbatim. But I said, I think what you are addressing Nicole now. I said, I think that what you are hearing is that there are opportunities, and we want to explore that. The mayor brought up that if it is ineffective cost-wise, there's always partnerships, such as with the school district, because I'm sure the school districts have their books for a certain period of time, and maybe with cooperation with them, we can expand the library. And as the mayor said maybe have the libraries extend their hours. Mr. Chaparro says, I'm sure that there are donations out there to make a library, because if you open this up, people would very likely show up. And actually, I do help out, and it can change. And it ends with Mr. Chaparro saying thank you. After that, we had her father speak, which is Alex Miranda. And Alex Miranda states, "Good afternoon. And the young lady that was just up here is my daughter. She brought up the issue to me about a week ago, and she wanted to know, so I told her to do some research. She got the phone book and called the closest library, which is Pablo Real, which is from our house about 5 miles away. For a kid to walk 5 miles away, that is not going to happen. Maybe if they were half a block or a quarter of a mile. The next closest one would be Socorro High School on Alameda Avenue, which is still 3 miles away. I then told her that I would contact Mr. Gondeta to see what the process is. Just as he stated earlier, he told her that it was not going to be an overnight success, but she said okay, and that she was willing to go forward with it. I had a lot of questions for you, but you already answered them to her, so I appreciate that on your behalf. Also, we appreciate Mr. Lopez, anything that you might also need from her right now. She is homeschooled due to some illness she has, so she is at home a lot of the time. She is capable of going to help you in whatever sense, and we would be more than happy to send her out with you. We also had another question. El Paso has the bookmobile program, and I'm not sure if they are able to bring this to Socorro or not. He goes on to say, I explained to Mr. Gondeta that it is very rare to hear a kid say that they want to go to the library, because I know when I was young, I never wanted to do that. Now I see that reading a book does make a difference. I have 4 kids and we read to them, and yes, it makes a difference in their lives, and she showed us that. I then told Mr. Gondeta, which rings true today, Mr. Miranda, we have a very young, what was talking about, gave the city involved. It's been 6 years later, and back then the answer was, we don't have any money. And unfortunately, we've learned that that wasn't the case. It was just the inability of just getting it done, starting the process, making it a priority. Mr. Miranda's daughter, Nicole, she started something 6 years ago, and I think it's important that we not forget that this needs to be a priority. Education of the youth is something that we can't forget. We have a long ways to go to make this an extremely educated community, and I thought it was important that we bring that up today. Mr. Miranda, if you'd like to come up and say a few words on this subject, we'd appreciate it. Take your time.
The reason I'm crying is because Nicole, the way Mr. Gondeta said, passed away 2 years ago. And one of the things while she was sick, she did express, like, Dad, what's going to happen with that? I was like, you know what, man? We'll continue to do what we can. And like I expressed earlier, I was the thorn on Mr. Gondeta's side, not just on the fire department, but also with that library. And again, it's not something for me. It's not something for my daughter. It's something for Socorro, the kids, you guys, your grandkids, your kids. Mr. Gondeta said she had a vision, and that vision is still there. I'm hoping. I had talked to Mr. Gondeta a couple weeks back, and he said, you know what, let's continue this. And again, the reason I'm crying is that we didn't know this was here. Jesse had told me they had, but we hadn't seen her since. And I just appreciate Mr. Gondeta for bringing this back and showing it to council. Hopefully, it's something that can be done. And the way she expressed, if you guys need the help, we'd be more than happy to help, however we can. Give myself, my wife, and my 2 little ones, whatever they can do. If you need something to be cleaned on the buildings and stuff, we'd be more than happy to do what we have to do in order to try to bring the library here to Socorro. We've already got a paid fire department coming in. Let's just keep growing. Why just stop? Let's just keep moving forward.
I would like to appreciate appreciate Mr. Gonzalez bringing this up. I didn't know that it was here. I didn't know I did have the pleasure of meeting your daughter. When we got in common council, we were asked for a list of things that we wanted to bring to Socorro. Since we were working on getting a master plan for the city of Socorro, and that was one of the things that I put in there. We gave them a list of everything that we wanted to Socorro, and the library was one of them. But this is so great, you know, that she was so young and she was asking for this. My condolences to you. I'm sorry for your loss. And congratulations for having such a beautiful, intelligent daughter.
Yeah, my condolences also, Mr. Miranda. And this being brought to our attention and us looking at it now on a positive way it means a lot, not only to you, but to us and the council, and obviously to the people that live here in Socorro. She had a vision just like we do to enhance our living standards, our getting our young people educated in every which way we can. There's nothing better than to have an education. And education brings knowledge. And obviously, this is something that Socorro has been obviously looking forward to acquiring. It's a great thing. And I commend you and your family, your daughter especially. Hopefully she's listening to us. But you did a great job to plant that seed even before we were familiar with the issues, her interest. And she did the right thing. And we'll do our best, I know I will, to promote that agenda or that idea. Do we need a second on this now, or do we?
I'd like to make a comment before we continue with the motion, please, Mr. Madrid. Mr. and Mrs. Miranda, an apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. You know, you all, both of you, have always been very supportive on all our projects. So absolutely, we're going to give you our support too. And there's just not a whole lot to say except, you know, it was awesome that Mr. Gonzalez brought it out. So if we have a motion?
May
Yes.
I? I'd like to make a motion. Mr. Madrid has taken on a substantial leadership role with our youth initiatives. And if Mr. Madrid would accept, I'd like to make a motion to approve Mr. Madrid to be tasked with working with Mr. Miranda to find a property in the city of Socorro that can host our future library for the city. And when it is acquired, naming it the Nicole Chaparro Library.
I'd be more than honored to take that project on, and I know we can get the property, and we'll see a library before you realize it. It'll be here probably this year. We're looking forward to getting it here this year. But it's an honor to work with people that represent the community of Socorro, with the interest at heart with the city of Socorro for the betterment of our community. And you shall have the library.
Second.
Motion made by Jesus Candela, seconded by Gloria Rodriguez. Willie Madrid,
Yes.
Gloria Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Jesus Candela.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And before we continue, I'd like to vote yes too. Okay, just for the record.
Mr. Young, can we get in that seat?
Ready to continue?
I think we are.
We have item 25, discussion and action on rejecting hot mix asphalt concrete HMAC bid. Mr. Madrid.
Yeah, in this particular case, the city of Socorro actually advertised for asphalt and a few other items in relationship to street repair. We've only received one bid, which has a price that's a little bit higher than what we've been paying the year before. In fact, we hadn't bid this item out in over a year. So the price is significantly higher, and it was an effort to send it out to rebid to see if we can get a better pricing than what we currently have. I don't have any particular issue or anything with the particular vendor. It's just an effort to see if we can get a better price. If the city council feels that we ought to go forward with the bid that we've got, I'm perfectly willing to do that, but I would like to seek an effort to rebid to see if we can get a better price.
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Would this conversation be better had in executive because of some legal questions, or?
I'm not aware of anything the bid clearly reserved to the city the right to reject all bids, and the city has that right. If you have any particular questions, I'll be glad to respond to those in closed session. But if the question is whether or not the city has the right to choose to reject the bids, it does. The city also could choose to not do that. But obviously, Mr. Norfleet's motivation is concerned regarding the difference in what you're paying now and the bids that were submitted.
So I guess my questions are, were there any abnormalities with the process? Why people would not bid? Did the newspaper agency forget to, post in their normal online area? Were there any abnormalities?
No. I think in the past we've used a broader base for advertising, and this time we use a shorter base. There's not a problem either or. We only got one bid, and it's not to say that other companies aren't interested, or they are, one way or the other. We've only received one bid, and I feel that it's significantly higher, and I was only looking to reject the bid, rebid, see if we get other quotes. If not, it wouldn't faze me too much, but it was an effort of getting a better pricing than what we have. It might turn out that this is the best price, but
Is historically let's say the past 2 years, who's been our provider of this service?
Joe, as well as CMX, CMX.
Well, we normally don't pick two. We normally just have one vendor. Do you know who the one vendor is, Mr. Davis?
I think it's CMX at this time.
So we haven't used Joe in the past 2 years.
Not in the previous year.
Not this past year.
But I think the point the gentleman was making is that the costs are now public, and whoever bids is going to bid at a lower cost that's already been publicized. So
Potentially.
yeah, somebody else is getting the advantage. I think that's what he's trying to bring to our attention. And I don't know really if this might incur some legalities.
Right, but Mr. Madrid, I don't know how it's been published, and it may have been, but it is not, it may have been listed on a website or something like that. The city has the right to maintain the confidentiality of that information until such time as the city makes a final decision with respect to these bids. And if the city rebids, then the city would have a right to refuse to produce this bid by this vendor until the issue is finally decided. Now, I don't know whether this information may have been released. If it has, then it has. But the city does have the right to keep this information confidential, other than when the bids are open, the city's got to read who's bidding, what the bid is. But other than that, the actual bid, the city can maintain the confidentiality of that until such time as it finalizes this issue.
Do we know if the confidentiality was maintained?
I'm not sure. I don't think there's been any conversations, only been one bidder, but I couldn't say for certain that it has been maintained. But a mere fact of publishing material for the day's meeting, in all likelihood, it could be